Section 3. Qualia. A key role for the hippocampus? Gray then goes on to speculate as to the most likely brain region to discharge this function of organizing conscious experiences. His choice to perform this function is the hippocampal system. Gray first refers to its role in underpinning the recollective experience of episodic memory. He then adds, quote, "In this sense, the hippocampus may resemble, in its relation to conscious experience, one of the specialized modes of the visual perceptual system. That is, just as activity in V4 may be sufficient for the experience of color, so activity in the hippocampus may be sufficient for the experience of an autobiographically authenticated episodic memory." End quote. We may recall from the last unit that Damasio suggested an origin for qualia in feelings or attitudes within individual cells which are somehow amplified to the level of the entire organism. We might speculate that this is the role proposed here for the hippocampus by Gray. Gray also identifies at least 3 respects in which the role of the hippocampus is of special significance. Gray suggests 3 reasons as to why the hippocampus is of special significance in the generation of qualia. Firstly, Gray points out that episodic memory is multimodal and comments that, quote, "The hippocampus is one region where all the senses can apparently come together in a single unified conscious experience. Indeed, the hippocampus is so far the only region known to play such a multimodal role in conscious experience. It outdoes even the thalamus in the range of modalities it represents, since it, but not the thalamus, receives direct olfactory input." End quote. Second, Gray refers to an important recent study which recorded the activity of single neurons in the human brain. Significant results emerged regarding the way that hippocampal neurons respond to recalled and perceived stimuli, respectively. The patients were shown pictures and then asked to imagine what they had just seen. Gray explains that, quote, "Some hippocampal neurons and also some in adjacent regions of the wider hippocampal system responded to both the seen and the imagined stimuli, and with the same specificity for the type of material depicted or imagined, faces, objects, spatial layouts, etc. In a single modality, then, the hippocampus is active in much the same way when a stimulus is recalled or when it is perceived. It is an important task for future research to determine what happens in the brain when the conscious experiences of perceived or recalled color, shape, sound, scent, etc. all come together in a unified scene." End quote. This is, of course, the phenomenon of binding different modalities into a unitary conscious experience. Gray asks whether this question as to how different sensory modalities become bound together can be solved simply by the juxtaposition of neural activity in each of these specialized regions. Or alternatively, does some additional region take on the responsibility of binding them all together? He answers that, quote, if there is indeed such an additional region, the hippocampal system remains, in my view, a strong candidate, end quote. Gray's third reason for promoting the role of the hippocampus as a qualia amplifier and coordinator is as follows, quote, if the survival value of conscious experience lies, as I have suggested, in the late detection of error and its correction for future action, then this is just the type of function in which context-specific memories of the kind mediated by the hippocampus play a crucial role, end quote. In the overview and summary at the end of his book, Gray provides, probably unwittingly, possible solutions to the two problems posed by Damasio's otherwise attractive and intriguing idea that qualia may originate inside individual cells. The first problem is how do qualia get amplified from single cells to play a role in the entire organism? As we have just seen, Gray suggests a role for the hippocampus in this process. The second Damasio problem is how do qualia emerge within the cell in the first place? In other words, what sort of energies and/or processes are involved in generating qualia within individual cells? Gray approaches this problem by stating that, quote, if we abandon functionalism, the only other place to seek a natural science account of qualia lies in the non-system properties of the brain. These might be the properties of the brain that are specifically neural or biological, or properties that stem from the physics and chemistry that are common to all matter, end quote.